In Unity, we talk about Jesus as our wayshower. And we also recognize that there are wayshowers in other traditions and in other religions. So what do we mean by a wayshower? We can think of a wayshower as someone who excels in their domain to the point that they create new pathways, they open boundaries, they create possibilities for other people to follow. They break new ground. And we can find wayshowers in all domains of life, in science, in business, in the arts, and sports. It's anybody who extends what is possible for us as human beings. And the Fillmores, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, co-founders of Unity, again, they talked about Jesus as our wayshower. And here's some quotes and paraphrases from some foundational Unity books that the Fillmores wrote. A wayshower is someone who realizes all that exists in the universal. Someone who awakens humanity to the possibilities of our own nature. Someone who realizes eternal life and universal consciousness. Someone who leads us to a greater realization of divine love. Someone who is a helper for all humanity. So I'm going to focus on spiritual wayshowers because we're in church, and that's our domain. So a spiritual wayshower is someone who has consciously chosen to provide guidance for humanity. So what do they show? They show us how to manifest our divinity during our human experience, how to align our humanity and our divinity. That's the job description of a spiritual wayshower. They show us how to reveal our divinity while experiencing our humanity. So, to fulfill these duties properly, they have to get their personal selves in order. So what does that mean, to get your personal self in order? It means that the personal self is no longer in charge of running their lives. So they recognize that they are an eternal being connected with divinity, and that the personal self is in service to that nature, the divine nature. So in other words, they don't react from fear and loss and separation. They're able to respond from their awareness. They see the big picture. So wayshowers are not in it for glamour or prestige or power. They're not seeking acclaim or attention. There's a teacher I really liked to listen to. His name was Brother Chising. He was a Christian scholar and a Buddhist monk, and he used to say, Jesus didn't come to start a Jesus fan club. So again, they're not in it to point to themselves. They're in it to point the way for us to follow. They focus on being of service. They prepare, they study, they release attachments. They receive inspiration so that they can do what is theirs to do. So this is from the work of Nathaniel Newby. He is someone who has devoted his life to the field of spirituality. He's in his 60s now. He's living the life of a quiet mystic in southern Colorado, and I've been working with him for the past 3 years on his forthcoming book called Spiritual River Guide, a Handbook of Being. And you're the first group to hear this information. Yeah. So 5 ways of wayshowers. There could be more than 5 ways, but 5 is an effective number for beginning this conversation, what I can count on one hand. And also, these 5 ways hold true across all time, across all traditions. That's a big statement. I think it holds up. See what you think. And we'll go into each of these in a little detail. So wayshowers consciously operate from being. They produce results. They're concerned with language and speaking. They act from and with wisdom and are considered wise. They reveal the stillness that underlies everything. So each of these could be a full talk on its own, more than one chapter in the book. And I'm happy to come back and talk about these some more. So let's talk about each of these points. First, they consciously operate from being. What do we mean by being? Being is the eternal, expressing as action and relationship in this universe. Being is the joy of existence. It's awareness of oneness. It's awareness of the eternal experiencing relationships. It's clarity. It's knowing that you have the capacity for great love. Wayshowers allow life to unfold organically from being. They don't force and control. They don't whine and complain. They accept what is as what is. And they respond not from ego-ness, but from beingness. So have you ever had those moments when everything just feels right? When everything feels connected? When everything feels wondrous and harmonious? When you know that there's nothing that you would change? When you know that you're loved and supported no matter what, then you're operating from being. Have you had those moments when you're just really happy to be alive, even when you're aware of the suffering and the loss and the sorrow, that you feel that you can embrace the full human experience and be happy about it? That you're here, you're learning, you're growing, you're aware, you're awake. When you're not bored and exhausted by doing, and when you're not burdened by having, then you're being. You're just being. And we can tell the difference between art that is performed, that is produced from a being state, and art that is produced from, some limited human effort or striving. I know over the past month you've been talking about the Beatles and had a series about the Beatles. And can you envision the state that John Lennon was in when he wrote Imagine? Can you just, what a great song that's performed so many times all over the world, globally. It's just embedded in our culture. We can tell the difference between art that's inspired and that which is just mechanical or derivative or rote. And that's why when you go to an art museum and you see the masterpieces and you can see the brush strokes and you can see the beingness that went into creating that art, it's different from looking at a, copy of it. Second, wayshowers produce results. Why are we still talking about Jesus over 2,000 years after he walked the earth? Clearly, he had an effect. Producing results means being aware of the body, being aware of the physical. And this is in all traditions, Buddhism, Christian, pagan. They all have practices that concern the body and the physical world. So they incorporate the physical body into the ways of being. So the spiritual journey is not about getting rid of the body. It's not about, getting out of here as soon as possible and ignoring the physical world. It's about incorporating the physical into the spiritual, incorporating it into a whole experience. So there's many different practices that you can do with the body. You can chant, you can do yoga, you can do centering prayer, you can walk the labyrinth, you can do Tai Chi. It's a matter of personal preference, whatever works for you. What's important is that we take effective action and we produce results. And when we produce results, we affect the space or the field. And we don't have to try to make this happen. It's just the nature of the universe. It's just the way that this universe is set up to work. When we do a centering prayer, when we get centered, we're affecting our sphere of operation. We're affecting the energy. So all awakened beings, whether they reach the level of wayshower or not, have profound effects on our world. And this is why we can take heart, even in very tumultuous times, that all over the world there are people practicing who are taking action and producing results. And we're not alone in this. And we know that we are changing the space, we're changing the field, we're changing our sphere of operation with our conversations, with our words, with our music, with our prayers, with our meditations. So all over the world, inspired people are producing results. Third, Wayshowers are concerned with language and with speaking. All traditions communicate with language, otherwise we wouldn't remember the teachings. And in this work, language is action that coordinates action. We can coordinate action with gestures, with body language, with all kinds of symbols and facial expressions. So language can be nonverbal. Wayshowers are interested in language that is generative, language that creates something of value. They are aware that they are creating their world with their speaking. And so how does this work? Speaking affects the energy patterns in the field. And you know this because if you walk into a room where people have just been arguing, that energy feels very different than if you walk into that same room where people were laughing about a shared experience. And we have many stories in our culture of the silent mystic, the quiet guru. You can think of Mr. Miyagi in The Karate Kid or Yoda in Star Wars. And we have many historical stories and figures of Christian mystics and people who achieve mastery in many different traditions. When they're showing the way as a wayshower, they speak only when they have something of consequence to say. Just babbling, nonsense, banal, trivial, boring conversation, they dispense with that, unless they just want to have fun with it. But they are aware that everything they say affects the energy patterns, and profound words have more effect than, just any regular old talking. So fourth, Wayshowers act from and with wisdom and are considered wise. So how this works, Wayshowers see from the future. They don't just see into the future, they see from the future. They're aware of possibilities and the access to those possibilities. They're aware of obstacles and challenges. So wisdom is knowing what to do in the present to produce the desired effect in the future, especially when at present the way doesn't seem so clear or obvious. So wisdom, again, knowing what to do in the present, what actions to take presently to create the desired result in the future. And have you ever had that kind of experience where you knew what was right for you to do even when other people didn't understand you or didn't see it your way? And they might be saying, you're crazy to decline that opportunity, or you're crazy to accept that option. But over time, it's revealed that your choice was the right choice. So sometimes it takes time to reveal wisdom. Religions are wisdom traditions. There's a professor at the University of Toronto named John Vervaeke, and he says that he asks his students, what are their sources for data, for knowledge, for information? And they have long lists. Everybody has lots of sources for information, knowledge, data. Then he asks them, what are your sources for wisdom? And he says he gets a blank look. That's the role of church. That's the role of the spiritual community. We preserve and we extend humanity's wisdom. That's what we're here for. So we can honor the wisdom of all wayshowers, regardless of the tradition. Fifth, wayshowers reveal the stillness that underlies everything. Stillness is a function of dissolving the chaos, dissolving the distractions, dissolving the frantic characteristics of life. And of course, we access stillness through meditation, centering prayers, quieting the mind, releasing distractions. The Fillmores, co-founders of Unity, talked about the silence, capital S, the silence, same as the stillness. So Wayshowers are known for being calm, for being focused, and for not having much noise in their operating sphere. So how does all this apply to us? Well, I'm going to give you 3 ways. First, by seeing these common denominators, we can respect other traditions. So we can see that there's many avenues, many pathways that lead to the same place. We can see what is common across traditions. We can also kind of overcome the dogma. Instead of focusing on the teachers, we can focus on the teachings and transcend some of the dogma. And you might notice that not on this list of 5 ways of Wayshowers, what's not on the list, anything about dress, hairstyle, diet, dwellings. There's a lot of variety of expression. Several years ago, I went to the Parliament of the World's Religions when it was held in Toronto, and it was such a great experience. And it was so fascinating to see the variety of expression. So in some traditions, they shave their head bald, even the women. In other traditions, the men never cut their hair, they never trim their beards. In some, they have elaborate robes. In others, they have very minimal styles of dress. And of course, there's a whole wide range of diets that people can choose from. So again, some of that is just a matter of personal preference, what works for you. There's many options, many pathways. But we, again, focus on what is common. So number 2, we can recognize Wayshowers by knowing how they operate, what action they take, what they reveal in this world. We can use our discernment. We can hone our discernment to say who is a Wayshower and who is not. And third, we can focus on these activities ourselves to progress on our spiritual journeys. And we can become more effective in this world as awakened beings. So we can consciously operate from being. One way to do that is to practice gratitude. Gratitude is an excellent way to connect with being. So again, what we want to do is be able to connect with being at will, not just like get there accidentally because you're looking at a beautiful scenery or hearing a little baby laugh, but be able to get there consciously. So again, practice gratitude. Some people journal, they take walks. There's, again, many different practices. But if you can find what brings you pure joy, if you can find what expands your heart, what expands your love and your compassion, and then practice that, recall it. Do it over and over again. Find that joy, that inner wisdom, that inner peace, so we can consciously connect with being. We can produce results. We can work with the body, make friends with the body. Again, the spiritual journey is not about divorcing yourself from your humanity. It's about embracing your humanity. So it's not about getting out of this world. It's about being in this world as a divine being, fully, wholly aware and awake. A lot of times nowadays, people talk about grinding. I hear that I'm a sports fan, so I hear, we're going to grind. Well, okay, but that sort of striving, that effort. Have you noticed that for Wayshowers, they produce results with seemingly very little effort? Like they can produce great results without really acting like they're doing a whole lot. So again, it's not about grinding and striving. It's about connecting with being. Finding out what's yours to do, finding your joy, just letting the results unfold organically, just natural. It happens naturally. We can be concerned with language and speaking, of course, the words that we speak, the conversations that we have. We can remember the wisdom of Disney. What was that? If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. But also we can choose what to surround ourselves with, what to allow in our sphere of operation. Some of the most effective words I learned from a counselor when I was a young adult is, I'm unwilling. So that way it's not about, I don't have to defend or excuse or explain. I'm just unwilling to subject myself to this music or this conversation or this gossip, or just walk away. You might notice wayshowers spend a lot of time by themselves in the quiet, in silence, for a reason. We can act from and with wisdom. We can cultivate wisdom, and there's basically two ways to cultivate wisdom. The first way is probably the hard way, and that is to have experiences, to try things, to learn, fall down, get up, hit obstacles, reflect. What did I learn? What could I have done differently? What could have gone better? What am I aware of now? That's one way. The second way is to consult our inner guidance. Again, get still. Practice meditation. Practice receiving. The divine guidance is always available, so we can tap into it. That's where you get the wisdom of children, right? Where they'll just come up with some amazing thing. Like, you haven't even lived very long. How do you know this? But it's just that trust of the inner guidance, that inner wisdom. And we can reveal the stillness that underlies everything. In the stillness, we find out who we really are. We find out what is ours to do. And again, wayshowers know that everything they need to fulfill their duties and responsibilities is given. Ask and it is given. You're not going to be left hanging. We had the Summer Olympics a couple months ago. I don't know if you got to watch any of the Olympics, but you could see this with the athletes. Before they take their turn on their event, a lot of them, they close their eyes. They get centered, they get focused. You can really see this with the divers. If you watch any diving, the divers are not running around frantic, high-fiving, hopping around. They, before they execute their dive, they close their eyes. They're just really present. Sometimes they're even doing a handstand on the edge of the platform for what seems like forever, before they're ready to go. They're practicing that stillness. And we can learn from that example, taking action from that centered place. So when you start to get overwhelmed with all the big news and all the noise, all the volume of wants and needs and complaints, just know that there's people all over the world who are practicing these principles and who are walking this walk. And if you're looking for a spiritual home where you can ask questions and contemplate wisdom, Unity might be a place for you. And if you've been away for a while, know that we're here. We're here for you to listen, to pray with you, and to extend the possibilities for humanity. Extend the possibilities, what it means to be a human being. So this work is about widening the path so that more and more people can progress quickly on the spiritual journey. Again, so it's not about getting into the details of different dogma and different traditions, but what do we have in common? What's common across them all? What can we practice? What can we put into practice in our own lives to hasten our spiritual journey and to bond with others? Thank you.
Thank you.